Morning. Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy you could join us today. So while we're waiting for everyone to arrive, we encourage you to share in the chat where you're joining us from today. And also recommend that you grab a paper and a writing utensil because we're going to have notes and exercises and opportunities for all that. So go and find those, please, and let us know where you're joining us from. We'd love to hear that. What part of the country is represented today? Last week we had some people from quite across the country.
From
But
Massachusetts.
even across Massachusetts, we have Franklin, great, and Needham. So we are covering Eastern Mass. And again, please use the chat, Brockton. Wow, we got a nice representation. Milton, this is great. Waltham, Sharon, Linfield, Norwood, good Massachusetts representation. So I'm Miriam Diamond. I'm the program director for the Encore Boston Network. And as you know, we help people age 50 and over make a difference and have more fulfilling lives through work, service, and social action. And you can learn more about us where you signed up, encorebostonnetwork.org. This program is being recorded. We'll send a follow-up email to all of you with a link to the recording, the slides, contact information for our facilitator, and perhaps some other surprises as well. So stay tuned for that. If you find it useful, feel free to turn on the closed captioning. And throughout the program, you're invited to add comments, react, submit questions in the chat. If you have questions, please write question before, so it'll be easier to catch when it's time to ask the questions, but you don't have to wait till the end to post them. So today our topic is creating the next meaningful chapter in your life, and this is an ideal way for us to wrap up this webinar series. Our purpose today is to explore and learn how to create the next meaningful chapter for you. Our goals will be to identify things that bring you personally meaning and fulfillment, to help you learn, reflect, and playfully consider possibilities and next adventures. We want to help you take charge of what comes next and to start to design a roadmap for what's most important to you to make the most of the years ahead. That's all. And we'll have an interactive presentation, including breakout groups. At the end, we'll have question and answer and closing remarks by Doug Dixon, the founder and chair of the Encore Boston Network. Now, I just want to remind you that today's program will go until 1:15 p.m. and feel free to stay as long as you can. I also want to thank 50+ job seekers in Massachusetts networking groups for co-sponsoring this or co-presenting this session. So again, if you haven't done it yet, please grab a pen or pencil and paper so that you're ready to jot down some notes and do some exercises. And I'm happy to introduce today's expert, Sandy Demarest, who's founder of Demarest Directions. So she is a certified career management, executive leadership, strengths-based, and retirement options coach, covers a lot of ground. And her focus is transitions, retirement lifestyle coaching, and aging well with purpose and vitality. And don't we all want to do that? So welcome, Sandy.
Thank you so much, Miriam. And I really appreciate the opportunity, all those coaches in one person here today. And I'm just really excited to talk with all of you and help you go through what I call an exploration. It is a presentation, but it will involve some exploring. So I think it will be a power-packed and fun hour plus a little bit plus that we're going to spend together. So I am going to share my screen so I can put my slides up. Bear with me for 1 minute. Okay. All right, there we go. So I wanted to just start. I thought it would be really helpful for me and for all of us if we just sort of take a minute and maybe put in the chat, like, who is with us today? Are you seeking a new job or promotion? Are you in a job that you hate or just is not a good fit and want something new? Perhaps you're in the midst of a work or career transition. Maybe you're close to thinking about or actually in retirement, or a professional who supports those in transition. I think that covers most of it. You can just to make it easy, put the number in the chat. It'd be fun to sort of see where you are, and you can have more than one number. Or if there's another option I haven't thought of, you can pop that in the chat as well.
So I'm seeing 5, 3, 3, and 4. So we're toward the bottom of the list. Oh, we got a 1 and a 3, a couple of 1s and 3s. We got a 2, a lot of 3s and 4s. 3 seems to be very popular. 4, some 2s, not a lot of 1s, some 1s, but we're toward the bottom of the list, I think, mostly.
Okay. Okay, great. Great. Well, perfect. You are in the right place. And I wanted to just start with a couple statistics. Every day, 12,000 people turn 65. At least one member of a 65-year-old couple has nearly a 50-50 chance of reaching 90 and a 1 in 5 chance of turning 95 or older. So it's clear we're living longer, in fact, 30 years longer than our great-grandparents, and healthier than ever before for the most part. So I believe it's so important for us to take some time and to really think about what that next chapter will look like, because it's a whole new season. Could be a big chunk of time for many folks. So I think that is why I'm really passionate about doing this work and helping to educate and inspire people to do this. And I wanted to start, actually, I'm jumping ship here. I wanted to start with a story about a man named Ray, a short story. It's many, many years ago when I was a young, fresh college grad starting my career in social work. I went through the yellow pages, which obviously was a long time ago, and I found some organizations to send out my 40 cover letters and resumes. The one that got a very positive response was from a man. Well, the organization was called the Alcoholism Council, and it was from a man named Ray Ferguson. I was excited. I had a great interview, and I actually was offered the job and accepted it. Excited, super nervous, full of fear, I was actually scared to death, and I took it. The main part of the job was public speaking. And at that time, back a few years, I just was, it was a fear. It was a huge fear of mine. I avoided it like there was no tomorrow. And I took it because that little voice inside my head said, you just need to do this. You need to get over it. So I did. And Ray Ferguson, my boss, was 71 years old. I was 22. He had a corporate job in New York City with a lot of stress, had a heart attack, had triple bypass surgery, and his role as my boss and mentor was his next meaningful chapter. It was his rewirement. He had done something and then just made a big switch. So he was kind of ahead of his time, because back in the 80s, it wasn't really very common to start a totally new career at age 71. And we both taught each other many, many lessons. Obviously, he helped me with confidence and gain my voice in speaking to people. And we talked a lot with young people. So I really helped him how to connect with young people. He wanted to know, what's the latest lingo? Tell me what's going on in the world of high school and college students. So Ray Ferguson, in many ways, was my ray of sunshine. Thus the slide. I felt like he was really key with positive aging, rewiring, navigating new transitions, and finding purpose and contribution. And I felt he really successfully rewired. And what sometimes I think when we reflect back, we learn lessons. And as I looked back on this, even more recently, Ray, my ray of sunshine, he was really a gift for me to witness this beautiful and fulfilling time. He had a second chance. he grabbed it. He had this clean slate opportunity and embraced it. And so today I want us to do some exploring as what our rays of sunshine can look like. And Ray was really an inspirational man. And so that, I think that maybe started my journey, though I didn't know about it. But my more recent journey to helping those mid-life, mid-career and beyond is I've worked in career development for 25 years. And I've had my business at a certified career, life, and retirement coach since 2009. I love helping people figure out what's most important to them. And as my career coaching clients were approaching new stages and transitions, they started to feel adrift and confused. So I felt like that was really important. I also saw the influence of my parents' retirement. One of my parents, my mom, did great with it. My dad really had no purpose and became very lost and just didn't really do super well. So all of these reasons, beginning with Ray and continuing on with my work, is what has brought me here today. And so today we're going to look at 3 shifts that I think are very important to make as you are thinking about creating your next meaningful chapter. And the first one is managing your mindset. I think it's so important that, we have often a mindset that can sort of keep us a bit stuck, maybe not in growth mode. And we'll talk a little bit more about the importance of that and maybe have you think about how shifting that could really help you as far as I feel like it's the foundation of creating your next chapter. Then we'll move to create your purpose. Having a purpose is so important. It becomes a bit of a guide or a spotlight to help you figure out where you want to go next. And we'll do a little bit of a dive into that. And then the third shift is rocking relationships and really just that whole piece of connection. And we'll talk a bit about that and maybe what is similar if you've done a lot of networking in the past, how that might be a little bit different as you're moving to this exploration of what's next. So I wanted to set the stage for this whole exploration and conversation today. And to me, this speaks very much to introducing mindset and a bit on attitude. So we are going to go into breakouts. We're going to start right there. And I want this question, who are your role models for positive aging? If you feel like you need to write it down, feel free. If you think it's something you can remember, that's fine. So who is your Ray? Who is whoever it may be? And then what do you admire most about that person? So this is the person that is your role model. And I guess why? What is it about them? What are some of the qualities and the traits that are most important? So if we're clear on that, we're going to have 5 minutes and you will have an opportunity to talk about that, and then we will come back together at the end of 5 minutes. So Kendra, can we move people into breakouts?
I forgot to ask if you two both wanted to go into breakouts.
Yeah, that sounds great, Kendra. Thank you.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, everyone's coming back now. Very good. Welcome back, everybody. Sandy, you just have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. I should know
You're
that by now.
welcome. Of course.
So I'm happy you're all back. I enjoy being in one of the breakout sessions. And I think really at this, it's just important to think about this and sort of, and I think looking at those qualities can be very important. And one of the questions I asked someone in our breakout was if they were already had some of those qualities or some of those interests. And I think for some they do, others it might be something to strive towards, because I think if you're really admiring that person, there's probably some pieces of that that you would really like to have present. So there we go. Sorry, I was moving my gallery. So yes, let me just move on. I'm sorry, I'm trying to move.
Don't worry.
My whole gallery is covering my whole screen. I should know what I'm doing. I usually do, but
You'll get there.
And don't forget,
Well-
you just have to reshare your screen.
And in the meantime, if people want to put in the chat some of the qualities of the people they admire, you can do that because we would love to know.
thank you while I get back here.
Yeah, what are some of the things that you admire in the people you feel are your role models? Staying physically active, clarity, creativity, resilience, independence, dedication to art. Active is a big one, I think. Lack of guilt, that's interesting. Positive attitude, public service, energy, enthusiasm, taking things in stride, having a purpose, there we go. Resilience, fortitude, flexibility, adventure. Wonderful, wonderful list. And
Yes,
you
I
can
love
all
them.
save the chat if that helps you.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And it's a nice variety. Yes. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. So we're going to begin the shift number one. It was managing your mindset. And as I said, I think this sort of set the stage a little bit for mindset and attitude. And I think when we look at mindset, there's so much that we hear about mindset. But it's really, I think some may be more familiar than others, but it's really all the combination of your thoughts, your ideas, your experiences, your values. And a lot of us, I'm one of those people, has a lot of things swirling through my brain at different times. And that can be sort of overwhelming. And often our brains go to past experiences or, and sometimes go to negative experiences. I don't know who has experienced this where maybe there's something that sticks like the top of your mind that was not a very positive experience. I'll go to my presentation sort of model that I've been talking about, how I learned how to present. There was one presentation that I completely bombed, but then there were probably 15 that were really good. But of course, where did my brain go to? It went to that more negative one. So I think sometimes that happens. And if we can start flipping that a little bit, it can be helpful. I just realized I wasn't in the right mode. Okay. So I love this quote because once your mindset changes, everything on the outside changes along with it. And you probably have all noticed that. And I think the key is like, okay, well, how do we do that? But I think as we're thinking about our next chapter, the more you can move to a mindset of discovery is a choice to move away from fear into a life of engagement and moving forward. And that's obviously, if we're thinking about what's next, we want to be in that moving forward. We want to be more in discovery mode, which will help us sort of have that right mindset to get to what's next. And when we look at the next chapter, mindset, there's a few that I think are especially important. And so number one would be a growth mindset. And, you know, you've maybe heard the term growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And those with a growth mindset, they're resilient. They love to learn. If they have a challenge, if they have an obstacle, if they fall, they have an easier time kind of jumping back in. I recently heard a podcast about, it sort of talked about failure confidence, which I thought at first seemed like a different term, but it was, so if there's a disappointment or a failure, like, let's figure out how can I tweak this? How can I make it work? Where someone in a fixed mindset has a harder time doing that. And then there's also a beginner's mindset, which might sound a little bit strange also, but it's an attitude, like it's going back to the beginning, seeing things almost like a child would see them. So it's that attitude, just more openness, taking the expert out of it. So especially if you're thinking of something new, if you've done something for several years and now you're looking to do something different, looking at it just through fresh eyes and how somebody would be studying sort of a brand new subject like a beginner would. And that just creates a bit more openness, takes away all the preconceptions. And then a positive mindset. And that's, I sort of just said that we sometimes focus more on the negative versus the positive. So it's really just being a lot more aware of what situations trigger the negative events. And just thinking about how can we flip the switch on that. And so on the note of flipping the switch, I just find this really helpful, and I've used this a lot with my coaching. We often are in what's called a red zone, sort of that fight, flight, freeze, fearful, frustrated. There's probably other words we can think of, where our stress spikes. We're in a really stressful situation. Our mental resources, when that happens, sometimes the mental resources are drained and they go down. Like we were once creative and we kind of just, we're stuck. We're in this place. Our thinking may become a bit narrow, more rigid, and the optimism has disappeared temporarily. And I think the key is to move. How can we move more to a green zone? One of flourishing, peace, possibility. And so instead of the stress hormones, we now sort of look at those happy neurochemicals. We look, and what happens, and I find this so true, when I can move to the green, there's the problem solving, ideation, learning, it all increases. It's basically, I call it, I also add my red zone. It's my funk. I'm in a funk zone. So how can I move it to this place? And I become more socially engaged. I mean, it also really impacts our physical body when we're, go in the stress, and then we move to more of the flow and flourish place. There's more of a resiliency and ability to take action, and a sense of identity and goal orientation increases. And I think what would be important for you just to think about is when you're in that red zone, because I do think it's a little bit different for everybody, how do you move to the green zone? There's all different, I can give some examples, but there's all different things. Sometimes, people that have done breath work, deep breaths and mindfulness and yoga and meditation, those can really help. For me, getting outside in the fresh air and helps, sometimes just a break, a pause. And so it depends on the situation. Sometimes you have a lot of time. I say, oh, I can go take a half-hour walk. But if I'm in the middle of a meeting and I'm in the red zone, I can't just say, see you later, I'm going for a walk. But maybe it's like a 3-minute break. And I sort of have to think about maybe, I often do sort of some gratitude type exercises. So whatever it is for you, I think trying to think how you can move the needle a little bit from the red zone to the green zone, because that's going to bring you into a more positive place. So I want you just to think about, and maybe you could write something down if it's helpful to you, or something you can reflect on a bit more after this presentation. But what do you do? How do you actually shift your mindset? How do you move from the red zone to the green zone? And, maybe whatever you're doing is working, and maybe you need to sort of reset and think about, try something different if something's not working. Maybe I do find, for me, sometimes just I have to just remove myself and go do something different, whatever it is, just to sort of get my brain away from that. So something for you to think about.
We
And
have
so-
someone, oh, did you want to hear some of the replies?
Sure,
Cindy?
I would love that, Miriam.
Okay, so someone said they remind themselves life is all about change.
Mhm.
Other people do what you said, take a break, walk outdoors. I know for me, it's meditation really helps. I listen to guided meditations. We have music also added in. Think of a better time and place. So just a few of the ideas. Keep them coming while Sandy continues. Go ahead, Sandy.
Sure. Great. I love that you're all sharing. So I think that's important. And so when we're in the green zone, I feel like it's a perfect sort of, let's move to purpose now, because we get to that place of possibility. And I think creating your purpose is the second shift. And it's interesting with purpose is an interesting question. I find some people feel like overwhelmed if you were to say, so tell me what your life purpose is. And some people are really clear in that and others aren't. And I think there's some of us who want to do something new and find that new purpose. Others, it's a bit more of how do I sort of take my talents, my gifts, my loves, and maybe cultivate them or bring them into a different environment and do something a little bit different. Purpose, it's been described as a big C, I mean, not C, sorry, P, a big P and a little P. And the big P would be like solving a big problem. I want to, not that you can solve this, solve world hunger, or, some big cause. Others, it's just very small steps that you maybe do every day. And so I like to help people figure out sort of what is it that gets you up and excited in the morning, or, it's often very connected to our values. So I think part of purpose is identifying things that matter, or your core values. And sometimes it's just that question, what's most important to me? What matters most to me? But I like the values piece because I think when we are clear on what we value most, it helps to bring us to something that's purposeful because it feels good, it feels meaningful. When there's a misalignment of values, I have found in my work and with myself, that those don't end up in a good place. They're often deal breakers. They create unhappiness at work or in life, whatever sort of situation you're in. So if you're when I say misaligned, so some of my, let's say your values are, you like helping other people, you are very creative, you love to be connected, you like variety, but you're in this job where you're in front of a computer screen all day long and you're doing research on your own by yourself. So that to me would be a misalignment. So I think if you can start just making that list of things that are most important to you, what really lights you up, it really involves a little bit of turning inwards. And so clarity around your values and your purpose are some of the ingredients to find more meaning in your life. A lot of it are things which I think is encouraging, are things that you have control over. So how can you, even if you're in a situation that's maybe not totally aligned to your values, is there a little shift or change you can make? So when we're looking, to me, purpose is meaning. So brings meaning to your life and work, clarity about what matters most. And so a lot of it are just some of those questions that I've been asking you. And there are more questions and again, my hope is that you may reflect on these just a bit. You can look at them and see which ones really resonate with you to answer now, or these may be ones that you need. I would encourage you to give yourself the gift of time and space and take some time at some point to answer some of these questions. So I think it does lead you to some purpose. And, maybe one jumps out at you. For me, it's always what brings me energy is a huge one for me. And when I'm energized, that leads me more to purpose. When I'm drained, does the opposite. Or what what do you do that you love to do that you totally lose track of time? Or I sort of like this question. Sometimes people ask, like, what do people come to you for that you love doing? Like, are you the go-to person for party planning or bringing people together? Or, sometimes thinking of it in those terms is also helpful. And what do you admire in others? Well, that probably part of some of those answers may have come through in our breakout question. And I find it so helpful to write things down, whether you do it now or later, because it sort of creates more of that energy, and it sort of helps with the mindset piece too, by writing it down. So I think that's important. And
Sandy, I'm sorry, can we give people maybe a minute or two to answer some of these questions?
Sure.
I'd love to hear what people are thinking.
Yes.
So if you want to share your core values, what brings you energy, what makes you most happy, I would love to hear that.
Yeah. Even answer to one of the questions.
So I know before the pandemic, leisure travel was a big thing. I'm looking forward to getting back to that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
We have innovating. So we have someone who's innovative. Oh, grandchildren. I had a feeling someone would say that.
I like that one.
Getting a new take on things. Great. These are important to know, as Sandy's saying. We have another problem.
Yeah, it's really part of this is a puzzle and putting the pieces in together and how do they best fit. I also think coming up with just however you want to do it in a journal, on a piece of paper, on your computer, like start developing a possibilities list. Like as things become important to you, these are things that I love. How can that translate into some things to do in my next chapter? It doesn't have to be like, oh, this is a definite thing I'm going to do. It might just be, you know what? This is a possibility that I want to explore a bit more. And so the other piece of that is it's what you love. And then that, what am I good at question. I am a big believer that you can always develop skills that you don't have. Some people choose to use some of the same skills, but maybe in a different way, in a different environment. But the strengths, I think, are important. And some of you maybe have done some assessments, Gallup Strength Finders. There's lots of different assessments. But sometimes it's just like I think when we know we're in a challenging situation, like what has helped us get through? What are those strengths? Or what do friends and family say about you? What things that maybe that's you're really strong at, or this is, I like to focus on what's strong versus what's wrong. So really focusing on the strengths. Feedback maybe you've gotten from friends, colleagues, managers, and just paying attention. I think sometimes we hear things and we don't really tune into it. So to me, this is an opportunity to tune in and to, get a little bit more clear on the strengths piece. Anyone want to share any of those?
Maybe I'm seeing helping others, creating events and solutions and seeing the outcomes. Empathy and compassion.
Ah, great.
That's important. I'd love to hear what other strengths people feel they have here. Seeing the big picture.
That's a good one.
Yes. Do we have a few more coming in? Here we have team building, kindness. So, this took a little longer than asking people what they love doing. I think it's a little hard sometimes for us to recognize that we have strengths.
I think it's hard. And in fact, I do an exercise sometimes with clients, a little bit more than what do your friends say. It's 5 questions to ask people that know you really well. And so sometimes when people ask other people and then they get the responses back, they're like, wow, really? You think, it's just interesting because I think, sometimes it's hard for us to do that. I would agree with that. Yeah.
We have a good sense of humor, relationship building, good listener, friendliness. Okay, Awesome. I'll turn it back over to you, Sandy.
Wow, great responses. Thank you everyone for sharing. I love that. So, so this kind of builds on what we were just talking about and, a bit more on what skills or talents do I want to utilize which came through, I think, with some of the strengths. And then what type of people and environments do I thrive best with or in? Which, again, which values or standards of integrity must be supported. This is through work, but it could be through other volunteering or life activities. And then what type of challenges? And so I think this is, I like these questions. You know, you might find you have a strong skill set. Some people, these are the skills, I really enjoy them. These are the ones I want to do, but I want to do them in a different place. Like I guess I would go back to my Ray Ferguson, Ray of Sunshine. He managed people in a corporate job, and then he made his big change to work in nonprofit. And he still, he used a lot of those people skills, but in a completely different environment, like very new for him. So, you know, and it could go either way, but I think, again, maybe jotting down some responses to those. What are the skills and talents you want to utilize? And I would add to that, what are new skills you'd like to learn? I mean, learning new skills and just learning in general is, very invigorating. It's actually very good for your health and for your brain. So I think that learning piece and that growth is also really important. Yeah. So and the challenge is an interesting question. So I hear different responses from talking to people about challenges. So I hear some people say, oh yes, I love a good challenge. I need to be challenged. I hear other people say, I've had a lot of challenges for a lot of years. I just want things easy now. And so I think, you know, you have to sort of figure out what's best for you. But I think a challenge can mean so many different things. You know, it could be a smaller challenge, but it is helpful. And I think whether it's, you know, physical, emotional, cognitively, you know, having some challenge is actually very good for us. And it sort of provides that sort of sense of accomplishment, sense of achievement. And I think, so I would sort of say maybe, I would invite you to consider a mindset shift around that challenges can be good and healthy. Yes. So I think I'm going to move to the next, unless we had responses there to share.
I was just asking if anybody had any new skills they want to learn or maybe what challenges. Okay, Chat GPT.
Yes,
that's the new one.
Yes, that's on my list, by the way.
So that may be a common one. Anyone else have new skills or new challenges you want to tackle that you're looking forward to? I have something that's not vocational, which is I want to learn how to be a musician and maybe take up an instrument.
That's
I'm
awesome.
not the only one. Someone else wrote it too.
I just signed up to be a bar instructor, bar exercise. My brother thought I was going to become a bartender. I said, no, bar, B-A-R-R-E, because that just really interests me. And yeah, so I actually love trying something new, and I just go into it. I'll try it. Who knows, right? Yes.
That's
So
right.
yeah.
We have someone who wants to write and film a documentary and someone who wants to learn pickleball.
Yay.
So
Great.
better communication skills. So really wonderful answers.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. Okay. So our third shift is I have rocky relationships. You know, I find the term networking is also one of those. It's a little bit like my purpose term. Some people like that word and others don't. It's on a spectrum with networking also. Well, a lot of us have networked for many, many years in many different situations. And I think I mean, what it really comes down to are who are you, you know, what are the relationships you are building, strengthening, and nurturing, because those are the people in your network. And, you know, depends on what type of relationship. But I find at this stage, most of us have a pretty good network. And I think, you know, just getting the most out of your network, your relationships, your connections, a little bit more, especially if you're exploring something a little bit new. And it may be job related, or it may be life related, or it may be travel related, or it could be a multitude of things. I think the goal is to go in, and the listening and learn, and the learning piece is really important. And it's part of that exploration. So maybe if you felt, I don't know if anyone on this, in this group felt this way, that they didn't really love the idea of networking and they felt stressed by it, I would say, like, flip it to just, you're in there just to learn. And I think just the whole idea of getting curious about people and things that people are doing in the world around us, and just start asking those questions. That curiosity is a big piece. And then maybe framing that conversation around that, and just be authentic and be natural. And it doesn't need to be scripted. I find really powerful things come out of a good conversation. And that's what this really is about. So it may be time to take a bit of an inventory of your network. I don't know about you, I have a lot of connections, and there's some I think, you know what, it's time to warm up. Is it time to warm up some of those relationships? Perhaps. And I think sometimes people struggle with that. Well, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to him or her in like forever. I don't want to just all of a sudden like reach back out again. And I think it's like, you know, whatever's happened, it's like, I just, you know, reaching back out, I so enjoyed when we connected more, and I really love to reconnect. Let's meet for coffee. And just like a very casual conversation you would have with a friend that you haven't talked in a while. And I would just encourage you to think of it that way. I put let go, do need to let go of some relationships, and it might just be more of a mental thing. There might be some people that for whatever reason are just, let's see, how do I put this? Maybe draining your energy, no longer helpful, not supportive. So I would say, you know, the more we can surround ourselves with some of relationships that might be more valuable to us. So, you know, just kind of put that through your filter as you're taking inventory. Tap into who you already know. And sometimes when people are trying something new, they think, well, I need like a whole new group of people, because now I'm thinking of, let's say, I'm thinking of getting a job at a nonprofit, and I haven't done that before. But I still encourage you tapping into who you know and just opening up the doors to conversation. And I think we also probably, most people have somebody, at least one in their network. I call them, I think I read it somewhere, an ambassador. Your networking ambassador, that person in your network that knows everybody. Everybody, there's a guy I know, his name is Matt. He if I need to find out anybody in any industry, and he just knows, he's like a networking king. So he's someone good I just go and bounce ideas off of. And that's what this could be. And you may need to build new connections, but I think it'd be helpful to find those through some of the steps I've already mentioned. And then just to be, you might just need to reset a little bit. So maybe, you know, figure out who you need to warm up with, you know, maybe do a refresh into tapping who you already know. And if you need new connections, that can be part of your conversation with all these, you know, that I would love to talk to somebody that's, I don't know, just came back from Italy and I'm thinking of doing that, and who can I talk to? So it's really just, you know, if you think about relationships and talking and conversation. And this just builds on that, because I'm so strong about this, that it's really a collaborative conversation. And I think networking, I think it can change for us how we like to network. And I know, you know, we all went through a pandemic and that changed things quite a bit. I used to be somebody that loved big networking events. I thrived on it. And it's very interesting. I don't love it anymore. I do it. I'd prefer just to have small groups. I prefer just to reach out individually to people. And I actually I find it more, I feel more engaged. I feel more connected. So find what works for you. There's not really a one way to do it, but it's all about conversations. And those conversations also may lead to experiments and experiences. In other words, there may be some action related to it. Perhaps you think, well, I've had this one job. I would love to try something a little bit more entrepreneurial. I'm not exactly sure what that would look like. So meet with somebody that's an entrepreneur. Or maybe it's on the side, you're going to try something that it's kind of a low risk. Like if it doesn't quite work out, that's okay. So I think those experiments are very, very important. And what experiences can you find? Maybe you're interested in a certain cause, so start researching maybe a nonprofit and then see how you maybe could just go in and have a conversation with somebody there, just learning. It's all about learning. So learning and engaging. Engaging is so important. You've probably also heard this, that as far as aging well and being healthy, that your relationships and how you engage with people is the #1 factor of being healthy. I actually had the fortune of sitting next to a geriatric doctor at a bed and breakfast in Vermont about a year ago. And I asked her that question. I said, what's the best way to age well? And she said, engagement, relationships, and then physical activity. So she also said purpose, but so I think engaging is very important. So what I'd like to have you just think about these questions. So what is the success you've had in the past through your connections? And I think it's just helpful to know about that as you know, I think sometimes it also helps kind of maybe build our confidence, like, okay, well, this did really happen through a connection. So, you know, this is important. It just sort of emphasizes the significance of that. And then who do you need to reconnect with? Who are the relationships maybe you need to warm up? And then if you wouldn't mind putting in the chats, if you have a response to the one in blue that I've highlighted, how will you refresh and expand connections in a new area, potentially, or just in general? Is there a strategy you have, an idea you have, or something you've tried recently that's worked really well?
Okay, so how will you expand connections?
Expand.
LinkedIn. I hear LinkedIn for professional connections.
Okay.
So that's always a good one. Someone has a current role that came about as a result of contacts they made. I did find a job once through connection, so that was really amazing.
And maybe, yeah, I mean, sometimes just those reach outs, like those virtual, I say virtual because I got the habit of saying that, but I do meet people in person too. But just having that, you know, that casual coffee chat, even with someone you trust, a good friend, that they may have ideas for you. So I think just being open to ideas and, you know, I'm thinking about this particular thing, you know, do you know anybody? So I think that can just be part of the conversation. And that's why I believe in sort of more of the conversational piece. But yeah, so far those are great
I
suggestions.
have one. Yeah, I see one. Connect to the the people who know you the least, because
I
they
like
get
that.
connected to people you don't already know.
Uh-huh.
So jobs, housing, relationships, former coworkers. I would add, going back to something new you want to learn, joining a group or an organization or taking a class.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's actually a great way. And yeah, and so, or finding that area of interest, like in a meetup, for example. I think there's a lot. I think when you sort of join it that way, it just feels more sort of authentic and natural. Like I'm just like meeting people through a common sort of interest of that we both have. Yes.
And we also have volunteering.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. That's all great responses.
Yeah.
So as we sort of look at mindset, which we did, review mindset and purpose and our relationships and our connections, a lot of this process, and I know there's been a lot of questions, and my hope is that you'll continue to reflect on those, but I think it becomes, if you're very detective oriented, great, turn that inwards to you. So it's just becoming more self-aware. And what I find is once you start going through this process and once you start taking some of your dreams or ideas or thoughts from the back burner and start moving them to the front burner. Once you start developing a possibilities list, my other thing I'd say is all these things, and I've said them like for years, someday I am going to blank. Someday I'm going to give back more. Someday I'm going on an adventure. Someday. So once we start bringing those closer to maybe today or not too far away, it's amazing what happens. So pay attention to clues and patterns. And I say this, I can think of several examples. You might be at a dinner party, you might be out to dinner with friends. And now that you're sort of, this is more to the forefront, something may just pop into that conversation. They might talk about something that you're like, oh, cool. I always really want to know about that, and get curious and ask questions. And yeah, because I think sometimes we just sort of go through life, and or you might get a monthly online newsletter and you get it every month, but this one, the next one you get, there might be some mention of some organization that you think, wow, gosh, I wonder what they do. That sounds really interesting. I don't really know about them. So I think just staying, aware and paying attention, taking notice, and then just making some notes to your possibilities list or things you want to learn about, things you want to know more about. All of those are going to help just to uncover opportunities, because there are opportunities everywhere. And I think, just getting out and talking to people and, looking more closely at things that you're reading and looking at can really, really lead you to really like new learnings, new things to explore. And then maybe continuing to do some more connecting with people. And now you have a little bit more knowledge, and maybe you might want to craft some questions to learn a little bit more about it. I think all of that's really important. So I am going to just, sorry, this is very important. So there's been a lot of information. You guys have been like great participation and sharing. That's been wonderful. And so maybe like, what's one step, a small step? It doesn't have to be a big step, because it's a big topic. How am I going to create my next meaningful chapter? Maybe just one thing based on what we've talked about today that you could start with. Maybe it's brainstorming many options and then prioritize and pick one. Pick one thing. I'm a fan of writing things down. I feel like the more have to happen if you write them down and they're in front of you to think about it and start taking action. And then lastly, and there'll be information sent out from Encore Boston Network, but if you find you need more support, I have some contact information, which I believe will be sent out, but I do small group coaching where we'd actually go through this process together, collaborating as a team. I also do retreats, and I have a free ebook on my website, 5 Steps to Your Next Meaningful Chapter. So it'll be some of today, but it'll have some more ideas for you. So I think at that point, I have great hope that you guys will learn a little bit to take some more steps to be a little bit more reflective and introspective and bring some of your possibilities to reality. And I would now, if it's time, Miriam, welcome questions.
Great.
If folks have questions.
Great. So someone asked, is there value in waiting for some of the answers to emerge, or purposely ask, I guess, ourselves these questions? So I think this was around the ones about what challenges do I want to take on and those kinds of questions. So what's a good way for people to start to answer them?
That's a great question, because I think sometimes the answers to those questions evolve a little bit over time. But I would say I'd start writing down what you can as a starting point, knowing that they're not necessarily written in stone, and that they, with some time, and I also find with away from sort of distractions and out in some quiet space, that some of those may come to you a bit more. But yeah, so I'd start writing down, but I hate to say yes and yes, but I think as time goes on, things may evolve, and there might be more clarity as you sort of really think through them a bit more.
So it sounds like sort of a journaling exercise.
Journaling exercise is one great way to do that. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Someone wanted to know, what are the 5 questions to ask others about their perceptions of you? So regarding our strengths, for instance.
So this sounds very direct. I actually have an exercise. One of them is what are my strengths? That would be very obvious. Or what is my unique gift or talent that you see in me? This is sort of an interesting one. It's a different way to get at it. If I were to be on the cover of a magazine, what would the magazine be and what would the cover story be about? So they're sort of more imaginative, or what do you see as my unique ability? So I like to get a little bit creative and just saying, so what are my strengths? You could start with that, but I like some of the other ones a bit more.
I like that story one. That's
Yes,
that magazine
it's
one.
fun. It's very fun. Yes. Mhm.
My question for you is, especially when you talk about the future and someday I'm going to, how do you feel about vision boards?
I love vision boards. Yes, I think vision boards are great. In fact, in all my groups and retreats, we do vision boards. And I think it's a great way to, to have a board of these are all the things, even possibilities are my some days. And I think if you have that in a prominent place and you can really look at it, I've seen amazing things happen with vision board. It keeps it front and center for you so that it's in your mind. And as when I said, sometimes you just see things, it's often like you visualize it and you see it. And then, I mean, I don't just say it happens. You need to sort of work to make it happen. But yes, I'm a big fan of vision boards.
And someone asked if you could define a vision board a little bit because not everybody knows.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Yes. So a vision board would be, I mean, I actually use like a board. It could be a poster board or a canvas. And then it's just putting things up there that you want to happen, that you would like to have in your future. And it could be through, the way I've done it is we get a bunch of magazines and or if you have a special picture or a quote, and we just put information up there. If I was in my home office, I could show you mine, but I'm not there today. But it might have things that are important to you, things, where you might want to be next. And it's sort of like a collage that maybe we made like years ago, but it's very focused on sort of how you're visualizing or how you would like things to play out in the near future.
Okay, and someone is recommending Visu app. So I guess that's an app maybe where you can do a vision board.
I think so. I haven't used it, but thank you for that. I've heard of it. I should check it out.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Sandy. There were a lot of thanks also in the chat. I want to thank all of you for attending. I want to thank Kendra, our administrative coordinator and technology expert, for getting us into groups and bringing us back and making sure everything was working today, making today happen. I want to thank 50 plus job seekers in Massachusetts networking groups for co-presenting this. And I'm so happy that this was the wrap-up session because it was so perfect as we move on to our next steps. So this session has been recorded. We'll send you a link to the recording. We'll send you the slides. We'll send you, people are already asking how to get in touch with you, Sandy. So we'll send out that information. Love to see your ebook. So thank you for telling us about that. Would love the link for that. And anything else people want, we'll be happy to do that. If any of you want to share save the chat, you can do that for yourselves. And I now would like to welcome Doug Dixon, founder and chair of the Encore Boston Network, for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Miriam, and thanks, Sandy. I'm going to add my thanks to you for this wonderful presentation. As many of you know, I think perhaps all of you by now, Encore Boston Network has made a decision to phase down its programming. And today, in fact, is the last official program that we'll be offering. I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for making this work very helpful to us and to those who have been a part of the process over the last 10 years of building Encore Boston Network. Things were very different 10 years ago than they are today. Fortunately, a lot of changes for the better. a lot more material available, a lot more people like Sandy who are doing this important work. And our decision recognizes the fact that there are a lot more resources, a lot more programs, a lot more tools available. And one of the things that we want to do during the phase down period is to connect you with a lot of those resources so that you'll be able to continue to take advantage of the programming that's available through our many partners. And you'll be able to find out more about that first by going to our website, EncoreBostonNetwork.org. And on the homepage, you'll find both an explanation for the decision that we've made to phase down our work, but also to connect with our program partners, all of whom will be continuing to do this important work and with whom we've collaborated over the years. The second thing I want to call to your attention is an opportunity on April 4th to get together one last time to kind of celebrate what we've all done together, and also to learn more about what resources are available that you can take advantage of in the community. So that will be April 4th at 11 o'clock. Am I remembering that correctly, Miriam? And you can sign up as you had registered for this program on our website by going to our events calendar. Even good things must sometimes come to an end, and we've made a decision that we can best use our resources by turning our attention to other kinds of needs. Many of us who have been involved in this will continue to be involved, and we'll be continuing to work with many of the partners that we've worked with over the years. So thank you for your support over the years. We look forward to seeing you on April 4th. If you have any questions or comments or would like to be in touch with me personally, I just put my email address into the chat. Feel free to send me a note. I'd be happy to talk with any of you about anything that you have on your mind. So thank you, and have a wonderful afternoon.